And let's see here. Definitely. Okay. So, all right. So let's see here. Let's go to. All right. So I'm going to be opening up the Word software. Shalom, everyone. We're on live on YouTube. All right, shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Doug with the Awakened by Yahuwah Assembly. We have Sister Shoshana as a guest with us today, and I believe we also have another guest here, Jose, that's listening in. So we're going to be doing our regular half Torah reading. And we're going to be starting it off with Deuteronomy 31. So please follow along with me. Let me just get the Word software up on the shared screen here. So let me see here. So Word software. Okay. The Word software. All right. Okay, so let's get this parallel here. Select Bible text and compare view. Oh, by the way, I also wanted to make an announcement. I did the tutorial earlier this week. Anyone interested to check that out? It's called the MySword 11 update tutorial. Recently, MySword now allows you to migrate your translations from other programs like the Word and eSword to your Android on MySword, so you can have like more free translations now. So just thought I would mention that. So like now you can have the Samaritan Pentateuch on there. Now you can have the Targum Onkelos on the MySword. All right, so let's see here. So I'm going to do a three-way parallel here: Onkelos, Samaritan Pentateuch, and the Septuagint. Okay, and we're going to go to Deuteronomy 31. All right, here we go. Deuteronomy 31. And Moshe finished speaking all these words to the children of Yasharal and said to them, I am this day 120 years old. Now, this is going to be interesting cross-reference that I'll reference after this chapter from the flood days there, about the 120 years. I shall not be able any longer to come in or go out. And Yahuwah said to me, you shall not go over this Jordan. All right, hold on a second, guys. I think I got a little bit of background. Let me just kind of mute everyone just so there's no background noise here. All right, so I'm going to continue where I left off here. Okay, verse 2 here. I shall not go over this Jordan. Yahuwah your Elohim, who goes before you, he shall destroy these nations before you. You shall inherit them, and it be Yahusha that goes before your face, as Yahuwah has spoken. And Yahuwah your Elohim shall do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, to kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, and to their land as he destroyed them. And Yahuwah has delivered them to you, and you shall do to them as I charged you. Be courageous and strong. Fear not, neither be cowardly, neither be afraid before them, for it is Yahuwah your Elohim that advances. And let me see, I got my little notepad here. Let me just make a little note of a difference here. I'll bring it up once we finish the chapter. Let's see here. So that was verse 6 there. Six. The word of Yahuwah. Okay. I really like how the Onkelos says here, the word of Yahuwah, your Elohim, will be the leader before you. He will not forsake you, nor be far off from you. Okay. And Moshe called Yahusha and said to him, before all Yasharal, be courageous and strong, for you shall go in before this people into the land, which Yahuwah swore to your fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them for inheritance. And Yahuwah that goes with you shall not forsake you, neither abandon you. Fear not, neither be afraid. Moshe wrote the words of this law in a book and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who bear the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, to the elders of the sons of Yasharal. And Moshe charged them in that day, saying, after 7 years in the time of the year of release, at the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Yasharal come together to appear before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose, you shall read this law before all Yasharal in their ears. Now, technically, this commandment was given in the original context that they were to read this literally at the tabernacle in the wilderness or at the temple in Jerusalem. So I find that interesting. So, and this is only to happen during the Feast of Tabernacles in the year of release. So it's not every year for Tabernacles. So I just thought that I would mention that. Having assembled the people, the men and the women and the children and the stranger that is in your cities, that they may hear and that they may learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim, and they shall hearken to do all the words of this law. And their sons who have not known shall hear and shall learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim all the days that they live upon the land into which you go over to the Jordan to inherit it. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, behold, the days of your death are at hand. Call Yahusha and stand ye by the doors of the tabernacle witness, and I will give him a charge. And Moshe and Yahusha went to the tabernacle witness and stood by the doors of the tabernacle witness. And Yahuwah descended in a cloud and stood by the doors of the tabernacle witness, and the pillar of the cloud stood by the doors of the tabernacle witness. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, behold, you shall sleep with your fathers, and this people will arise, go a-whoring after the strange mighty ones of the land into which they are entering, and they will forsake me and break my covenant which I made with them. And I will be very angry with them in that day. And I will leave them and turn my face away from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and afflictions shall come upon them. And they shall say in that day, because Yahuwah my Elohim is not with me, these evils have come upon me. Interesting paraphrase here from the Unkelos, because the splendor of my Elohim is not among me. That's interesting. And I will surely turn away my face from them in that day because of all their evil doings which they have done, because they have turned aside after strange mighty ones. Okay, and now write the words of this song and teach it to the children of Yasharal. I always find this interesting. The Deuteronomy 32 song, it's never sung by anyone. Yet we make the Aaronic Baraka into a psalm, which was never a psalm. We do all these other songs, but a psalm that Yahuwah actually told us to sing, we don't sing for some reason. I just find that interesting. I don't know. The words of this song and teach it to the children of Yasharal, and you shall put it into their mouth, that this song may witness for me among the children of Yasharal to their face. For I will bring them into a Tov land, which I swore to their fathers to give to them, a land flowing with milk and honey, and they shall eat and be filled and satisfy themselves. Then will they turn aside after other mighty ones and serve them. They will provoke me and break my covenant. And this song shall stand up to witness against them, for they shall not forget it out of their mouth or out of their seed. For I know their wickedness, what they are doing here this day, before I have brought them into the Tob land, which I swore to their fathers. And Moshe wrote this song in that day and taught it to the children of Yasharal. And he charged Yahusha and said, be courageous and strong, for you shall bring the sons of Yasharal into the land which Yahuwah swore to them, and he shall be with you. Now, what's weird here is the wording's a lot different in other versions. For some reason, it says the land that I have promised them. Moses never promised them this land. I don't know. That's just a little weird, the way it's worded in certain other versions. Rather, like it's first person versus third person. It wouldn't make sense that it's third person because Masha he's not the one that promised them the land. So I kind of agree with the Septuagint there. Which Yahuwah swore to them, and he shall be with you. And the Unkelos here says, his word shall be your helper. Make a little note of that. His word shall be your helper. Okay. And when Masha finished writing all the words of this law in a book, even to the end, then he charged the Levites who bear the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, saying, take the book of this law, and you shall put it in the side of the ark of the covenant. In the side of the ark of the covenant, not outside. I've heard people try to say, oh, this is the reason we only keep the 10 commandments because it's outside the ark. It says in the side of the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah your Elohim, and it shall be there among you for a witness. For I know your provocation and your stiff neck. For yet during my life with you at this day, you have been provoking in your conduct toward Elohim. How shall you not also be so after my death? Gather together to me the heads of your tribes and your elders and your right rulers and your officers, that I may speak in their ears all these words. And I call both heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that after my death, you will utterly transgress and turn aside out of the way which I have commanded you, and evil shall come upon you in the latter days, because you will do evil before Yahuwah to provoke him to anger by the works of your hands. What's interesting here is that in that same verse, the Targum seems to hint that this is an end times prophecy. Because instead of latter days, it says, let me just try to get the exact verse here. So in verse 29 in the Unkelos Targum, it says in the end of days, which would definitely hint to end times prophecy. At the end of days, for you will do evil before Yahuwah to provoke him to anger by the works of your hands. So that's interesting. Now, this is where it gets weird. In certain versions, this is part of chapter 32 at verse 30 here. Like the Septuagint has a little parentheses here saying 32 verse 1. So according to the Septuagint, that's where Deuteronomy 32 would start in verse 30. So that's a little weird. And Masha spoke all the words of this song even to the end in the ears of the whole assembly. Okay, and that's it. So some interesting stuff here. We have seems like an end times prophecy in verse 29. His word shall be your helper. Okay, go ahead, Brother Joshua. I see you got your hand up.
So two points. One, I would say that even before you get to that point, in verse 17, it seems to be pointing to end times. I could be wrong, but it says, "In my anger will be kindled against them at that time, and I will drive them afar off and remove my esteem from them to consume them. And many evils and troubles shall befall them, and they will say in that day, is it not because the esteem of my Allah is not among me, that these evils have befallen me?" You could make the argument that that is just talking about, different captivities, but even in those captivities, his esteem was still among them. You still have prophets still among them. So that, to me, it seems like it's pointing to after the dispersion, where there's no kings, there's no prophets, there's no, all the way up until kind of like where we are now.
I would agree. And this is like the second time you see in Deuteronomy who is saying that phrase, that the latter days or the end days. Yeah, I would agree that it has to be end times prophecy. Just the fact that the work of their hands you can't really pinpoint that only for their generation. That's happened multiple times in Yasharel's history, where Yahuwah has been provoked by the work of their hands. And even in Deuteronomy 32, then when we read that next week, you'll see how it's a lot of end times prophecy in that chapter. And it talks about how you'll consider how you went astray with the work of your hands. And at that time, I will cause you to remember and to loathe all that. And like what we're going through right now, us turning back to Yahuwah seems to be a prophecy actually to take place in the end times. And you see more and more people forsaking the works of their hands, forsaking their idols. Around this time period, it seems like it was a prophecy that Yahuwah meant for a remote generation that would do that. Even though it happened technically in Babylon, you could say that. But, I believe it's also happening today, in my opinion.
The other point was Deuteronomy 31:13. It says, I think that's, I'm sorry, 31:3. It says, Yahuwah your Allah who goes before you, he shall destroy these nations. He shall destroy these nations before you, and you shall inherit them. And it shall be Yahusha that goes before your face, as Yahuwah has spoken. So right here you have him saying that he himself will go before you, and he shall destroy these nations. But then in Exodus 33:2, you have him saying, and I will send at the same time my Malak before your face, and he shall cast out the Amorite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Girgashite and the Hivite and the Yetzite and the Canaanite. So you just see a oneness connection there.
Yep. Yeah, but I caught that too.
Yeah.
I think the argument with people that are against the oneness would say, well, he actually changed his mind because Moses in that chapter said, we need you to go before us. And, so, that would be their little counter argument, try to work their way around that. Be like, well, the messenger is technically separate from him because he first plans to use his messenger. And then Moses is like, how can I trust that you're with us if you don't go before us yourself? So they'll try to work their way around that. I've seen them do that before, but I agree with you, Joshua. I actually agree with your point of view of that verse from Exodus 33. I believe that's showing oneness there.
I think even when you look at the part where he says, how will we know if you're with us? You haven't shown me who it is that you're sending with me. I think in the full context of that chapter, that even shows oneness in and of itself.
Yeah. That's an interesting chapter too. That shows the esteem of Yahuwah being Yahusha. Talks about his right hand is the light or esteem that was emanating from him. That's what Moses would see, but he wouldn't be able to see him face to face. Yeah, it's a really interesting chapter. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, I did want to bring up where it talks about the 120 years. This is interesting because this is the first time that's actually fulfilled, that expectancy, you could say, life expectancy, post-flood. You see here, so you got men's days will be 120 years. I believe it's chapter 6 of Genesis stated here. So the 120 years did not even happen post-flood until this point. We can't really say that it was even like men after the flood, immediately after the flood, lived way past 120 years. So it seems like Masha's generation started that. You started getting to the life expectancy of 120 years. And this is Genesis 6:3. It says, then Yahuwah said, my spirit will not remain with man forever. I like how a lot of these modern translations, they side with the Septuagint of that verse. Because if you look at the Masoretic, it doesn't say remain or abide. The Masoretic, in the Hebrew says strive, which doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion. I'm glad some of these modern versions have sided with the Septuagint, using the word for abide or remain rather than strive. As you look at the King James, it says strive. And a lot of the older ones will say, my spirit will not strive with man forever. But if you look at the modern ones, they side with the Septuagint. My spirit shall not, the New American Standard Bible says will not remain. My spirit will not remain with man forever because he is also flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be, future tense, 120 years. And to the point that I try to make here is because people will say, well, this means that men's days were 120 years, like right after Yahuwah says it. That's incorrect, because if you look at the genealogies right after the flood, many of them lived past 120 years. So obviously, the reason shall is there is the word shall is there for a reason. It hasn't happened yet. So, and we see a fulfillment technically of this with Moses, which we just read in this chapter. He lived 120 years and died. So to the credit of that, Yahuwah doesn't tell us when exactly the shall is. So, and personally, I find it not to get in too much of a rabbit hole. When you look at the Targums, there might have been another, the 120 years at that time could more or less be referring to giving them 120 years to repent before the flood. And then you have this 120 years expectancy later on. That's kind of how I interpret it. I think both are correct. It's just that at that time, Yahuwah might have been this idea of Yahuwah giving that generation of the flood 120 years to repent before he sent the flood. And, but anyway, so didn't want to go too much on a rabbit hole, but I just find it interesting that we see the fulfillment of the 120-year expectancy with Masha here. This is the first time we actually see literally that it's being fulfilled. So I just find that interesting. But that's the last thing I really had to comment on from that chapter. So let's see here. Now we're going to go to Hosea 13 or 14. I might as well read that too, because that was such a short portion from Deuteronomy. I might as well read Hosea 13 or 14 here. So we're going to go to that next. All right. So Hosea 13 to 14.